हरे कृष्णा। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So we welcome you all again to the last day of this course, Rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Of course, this is not last day of the course, but this is last day of part 1 of the course. I just wanted to remind you. Part 2 we will start very soon, most likely on 25th of this month, maybe in a couple of days from now. And we will continue from where we left off. So today being the last day of part 1 of this course, I'll do a quick recap of I'll just touch upon the themes that we have covered till now, starting from first day. If you remember, we started with this discussion of what this book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is all about and why is it a very important book for our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradayas. In this we discussed about how it is a book of definitions and it is a book where the essential concepts are presented in a very precise, concise way with proofs. And then we started with the first wave of this eastern section of this book. And the first theme that we discussed was Mangalacharan, invoking auspiciousness. And this had three elements, Vastu Nirdesh, Ashirvada and Namaskar, and we discussed on these themes. And then Srila Rupa Goswami discussed on the topic of Grantha Vibhag, how he has divided this book into 4 parts, eastern, southern, western and northern sections. And then each has a few waves or chapters, and we will be covering only from the eastern section. The first half or the first 3/4 of the eastern section will be part of this course, and then the subsequent sections we will be seeing later in another course. And then the next theme that we discussed was the definition of Uttama Bhakti, the famous verse, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadhyanavritam, Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktiruttama. So we saw the various elements of this, the 4 elements, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadhyanavritam, Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam, these 4 aspects of this definition we saw. And then at the end of it, we tried to evaluate if our own practice fitted this definition. In this regard, we had a very elaborate discussion on the difference between desires born out of one's conditioning and value system, Shraddha and Swabhav, and the tug of war between the two, which essentially indicates the life of a sadhaka, at least during the early stages of his practice, and how one overcomes that. So this was like an elaborate discussion. It was more or less like an introspection session for us. And then the next theme that Srila Rupa Goswami discussed was the 6 qualities of Uttama Bhakti. Kleshagni Shubhada Moksha Laguta Krit Sudurlabha Sandrananda Visheshatma Shri Krishna Akarshini Chasa. So Kleshagni, how Bhakti destroys all the suffering, starting from the prarabdha, aprarabdha karma, to the causes also in the form of sinful desires and the sinful vasanas, how Bhakti destroys. We had elaborate discussions on this. We discussed on the theme of Shubhada, how Bhakti bestows all auspiciousness. We also discusses that how Bhakti at the stage of Bhava gives a level of bliss which is far superior to the bliss of liberation, to the extent that the bliss of liberation seems very insignificant, moksha lagutakrit. Then how such Bhava Bhakti is very rare for 2 reasons. That how by practice of many different types of sadhana you may achieve different goals, but not Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti can be attained only by practice of sadhana bhakti, which is very rare. Therefore, Bhava Bhakti is still more rare. And the second reason why Bhava Bhakti is rare, that Krishna, is because Krishna waits to see whether the person is really qualified for Krishna to hand over the remote control to him. So then Krishna becomes completely controlled by that person. 5th quality of Uttama Bhakti which manifests at the stage of Prema is Sandrananda Visheshatma. It is condensed bliss which is of a special type, spiritual condensed bliss, which is the nature of one's experience at the stage of Prema when one has personal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then finally, how at the stage of Prema one is able to completely attract Krishna, and not just Krishna but the associates of Krishna also. Shri Krishna Akarshini. So in this way we saw the 6 qualities of Uttama Bhakti. And then finally we discussed this on this theme of qualification to understand Bhakti, which we saw was Shraddha or Ruchi, as it is mentioned here. Swalpapi ruchireva syad bhakti tattvava bodhika yuktistu kevala naiva yadasya apratishtata. By plain logic or just plain intelligence one cannot understand the theme of Bhakti. One needs swalpa ruchi or swalpa shraddha which comes from Agyat Sukriti. That we had an elaborate discussion on the other day. Then we started, so this was the last topic that was discussed on the eastern wave of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Then we started discussing the second wave, eastern section second wave, which talks about sadhana bhakti. So in this we started by discussing, is it 3 types of bhakti or 3 stages of bhakti? Sadhana, bhava and prema, are they 3 types or 3 stages? So we understood that it cannot be 3 types, it cannot be 3 stages, because there are some cases, like in the case of some Kripa Siddhas, where it is seen that by skipping sadhana and bhava one may automatically come to the stage of prema, or in some cases sadhana is skipped and the person automatically comes to the stage of bhava due to the mercy of either a very powerful Vaishnava or due to direct mercy of Krishna. This happens. Of course, this theme we will discuss elaborately when we reach the stage of bhava and prema. That will be a different course. Maybe probably the next course we will discuss this. Then we saw that, is it 3 types? Yes, because bhava we saw is different from both sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti. Bhava is different from prema bhakti because at the stage of bhava there are still some impurities, but at the stage of prema there are no impurities. And rasa is completely experienced at the stage of prema, but at the stage of bhava it is only in a budding state. And then even though at the stage of bhava the person is qualified to experience a personal relationship with Krishna, that experience is not continuous like in the stage of prema. So for these reasons bhava cannot be clubbed with prema completely. Then why not club it with sadhana bhakti? It cannot be clubbed with sadhana bhakti because at the stage of sadhana bhakti there is no direct experience of the Supreme Lord, but at the stage of bhava he is qualified. Krishna Sakshat Kritau Yogya. So that Yogyata is there for having a personal experience with Krishna. And also the goal of sadhana bhakti is to attain bhava. Therefore, for these reasons bhava cannot be strictly clubbed with sadhana bhakti also. Therefore, it is more appropriate to have 3 types of bhakti rather than 2 types for clarity purposes. Then we started with the definition of sadhana bhakti. So what is sadhana bhakti? Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavasa sadhana bida. Nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. We saw that how sadhana bhakti means engagement of the senses in the activities of ninefold devotional service with bhava as the goal. This is the definition of sadhana bhakti. And that bhava is not created by sadhana, it is already there, present in the heart, But by practice of sadhana, practice of sadhana just helps to remanifest that bhava within the heart. Nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. This we discussed. And then we saw that how if bhava is eternally present, then what is the meaning of Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhaktilata Bij? What is that seed that we receive? We understood that the seed is Shraddha, faith in the process of sadhana, and the sadhana process itself. These two constitute the seed. That seed is received, or the key is received, but the treasure itself is eternally there within the heart. So this is what we understood about sadhana bhakti. And this sadhana we saw was of two types, Vaidhi sadhana and Raganuga sadhana. And we saw the definition of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So Vaidhi sadhana bhakti means yatra raga anavaptatvat pravrittir upajayate shasanenaiva shastrasya sa Vaidhi bhakti ruchyate. What is Vaidhi bhakti? When there is absence of raga. Raga means spontaneous, intense thirst for pleasing the object of love, Krishna. In the absence of that kind of a spontaneous thirst, when we see that a person is still performing the limbs of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, then it forces one to ask, where is he getting this inspiration to serve Krishna so sincerely? So Rupa Goswami says, Shasanenaiva Shastrasya, from the rules and regulations of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, Sa Vaidhi Bhakti Ruchyate. So Vaidhi Bhakti has the impetus coming from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and it has the element of sadhana, which means engagement of senses in the ninefold activities of devotional service with bhava as the goal, and it also has the element of Uttama Bhakti, which is Vaidhi sadhana is also Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadhya Navartam, Anukulyena Krishnanushilam. So this we saw yesterday. Then we saw what are the results of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. The first verse indicated that whatever one may desire, Vaidhi sadhana, practice of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti provides that. Akama sarvakamo mokshakama udaradihi tivrena bhakti yogena ejayata purusham param. But the next verse indicated that the highest goal, that the highest benefit that Vaidhi sadhana provides is actually prema bhakti. Then the next theme that we discussed was qualification for taking up to Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So we saw that the qualification to take up to Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is Shraddha, and that Shraddha is attained by accumulation of Agyat Sukriti. Yak kenapi atibhagyena jata shraddosya sevane nati sakto na vairagya bhagasyam adhikarya sau. We saw that how somehow or other atibhagyena means by impressions arising from previous association with devotees. Through Agyata Sukriti, by accumulation of Agyat Sukriti, when one develops faith in the process of bhakti, in serving Krishna, the nature of that faith is that he is neither too attached like a karmi, nor too detached like a jnani. Rather, he is willing to utilize his senses and his resources in the service of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. So, that is the nature of that faith. And that faith is attained only by the association of devotees, which gives rise to that Shraddha. So this is the qualification for that bhakti. And we saw some proofs for this. We saw the proof from the life of Narada Muni from the first canto, and we also saw this famous verse, Jata Shraddho Matkatasu, which talks about these 5 classic symptoms of a Vaidhi sadhaka, who has faith in the process, who does not have faith in karma jnana yoga, and who is convinced that engagement in sense gratification will eventually lead to suffering, but still he is not always able to say no to sense gratification. And when he does succumb to sense gratification, he feels genuinely repentant. So these 5 symptoms of Vaidhi sadhaka we discussed. And then the last theme that we discussed yesterday was the types of persons who are qualified for Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. In this we discussed about the 3 adhikaris, Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari and Kanishtadhikari. So the Uttamadhikari is one, Shastre Yuktau cha Nipuna, Sarvata Dridanischaya, Prauda Shraddho Adhikari Yaha Sabhaktau Uttamo Mata. So Uttamadhikari is one who is very skillful in scriptures, he does not just know the verses, but he knows the underlying logic, which is like a thread which connects all these verses in a very logical way. He knows that thread, the logic of the scriptures. And this is not just a theoretical understanding. Sarvata Dridanischaya. He is completely convinced as to what is expected of him, and he performs that. What is the sambandha, what is the abhideya, and what is the prayojan. He is very clear in that. And Prauda Shraddho Adhikariya. Because of personal practice and experience of the results that the scriptures are promising, his faith has become very, very deep. So, the depth of faith depends on how much he has practically applied all these principles that he has learned from the Shastras, so that he will experience the result of what the Shastras are promising. Oh, this is what the Shastras promise and I did experience it in my life. It makes the faith more deeper like that. On the other hand, Madhyamadhikari is one who may not have that kind of a skill or understanding of the Shastras, but he is Shraddhavan. He knows that the Shastras are right, he has full trust in the Parampara. So therefore, even if a very strong opponent may defeat him, he does not lose faith. He knows that I may not be able to defend, but the other Acharyas have done it. Prabhupada has done, Jiva Goswami has done, Rupa Goswami has done. So I don't have to worry. Once I learn what they have written properly, then I will also be able to defend the principles of bhakti. He knows that. And the third kind of adhikari is the Kanishtadhikari. Yo bhavet komala shraddha sa kanishto nigadyate. So the Kanishtadhikari has komala shraddha, very weak faith, because he has not properly understood the Shastras. So therefore, when a very strong materialistic opponent confronts him, he may become very scared and he may become temporarily very shaken. So, but he will not be completely unconvinced and completely give up the path. He will later sit and reflect on the teachings of his Guru, and he will reconfirm his faith in the teachings of the Guru. Because if he completely gives up the path, then he cannot even be considered as a Kanishtadhikari, which means he does that what he possesses is not considered as faith. It is not even Komala Shraddha. So this is where we ended in our previous discussion yesterday. Now the next theme that Srila Rupa Goswami discusses is, in Gita there are 4 types of persons who are discussed as being qualified for surrendering to Krishna. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino Arjuna, arto, jigyasur, artarthi, jnani cha bhartarashava. Krishna says, O Arjuna, 4 kinds of people surrender unto me: arto, jigyasu, artarthi and jnani. But he says, only being an arto, artarthi, jigyasu or jnani is not a qualification to surrender to Krishna. These are all 4 different reasons why people seek shelter, why people surrender to someone. When one is very much distressed, when one is in need of money, when one is very inquisitive, and when one is a jnani. Jnani means knowledgeable. Out of knowledge one may surrender. So here, these 4 kinds of people are surrendering to Krishna, because here Krishna mentions they are sukritinas, because they have the sufficient sukriti to surrender to Krishna. So now the question is, these 4 kinds of people, are they Kanishtadhikaris, Madhyamadhikaris or Uttamadhikaris? The answer is neither. They are neither Kanishtadhikaris or Uttamadhikaris or Madhyamadhikaris, because their faith is not pure faith. They are not Anyabhilashita Shunyam. The Artho is worshipping the Supreme Lord for removing his distress. The Artharthi is worshipping the Supreme Lord with wealth as his goal. The Jigyasu has some curiosity to worship the Supreme Lord. And the Jnani, his practice is tinged with some Jnana. So therefore, none of these four people are actually completely, they don't have completely pure devotional faith. So they cannot even be called as Kanishtadhikari. So that's what here he says. Tatra Gitadishu Uktanam Chaturnam Adhikarinam Madhye Yasmin Bhagavatah Kripa Syad Tat Priyasya Va Sakshina Tattad Bhavah Syad Shuddha Bhakti Adhikaravan Yata Ibaha Shaunakadischa Dhruvascha Sa Chatushanaha. He says, Tatra Gitadishu Uktanam Chaturnam Adhikarinam. Of the four kinds of adhikaris that are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Artho, Jigyasur, Artharthi and Jnani, Madhye Yasmin Bhagavatah Kripa Syat. Either if they get the mercy of, strong mercy of Krishna, Tat Priyasyava, or if they get the a strong mercy of a very elevated devotee, Sakshina Tattad Bhava, then they give up those mixed inclinations. Shuddha Bhakti Adhikaravan Syat, and they become qualified for Shuddha Bhakti. But if they don't get that powerful Kripa through the association of devotee or directly from Krishna, then they don't become Shuddha Bhakti Adhikaris, they remain mixed devotees only. And he gives four examples. Yata Ibaha. Ibaha means elephant. Here it refers to Gajendra. So Gajendra approached the Supreme Lord to relieve him of his misery. But then when he came in touch with Krishna, when he came in touch with Lord Hari, who came sitting on the back of Garuda, in touch with Lord Hari, his desire for destruction of suffering was released and he became a pure devotee and went back home, back to Godhead. In the case of the second example that is given is Shaunakadi Rishis. So Shaunakadi Rishis were Jigyasu. Satram Swargaya Lokaya Sahasra Samamasata. So they were there sitting in Naimisharanya with a deep desire to understand what is the ultimate goal of life. They were curious. But when they came in touch with Suta Goswami, through his association, the secondary desires were purified and they became pure devotees. This is the example of Jigyasu. And the third example that he gives is Dhruva Maharaj. So Dhruva Maharaj approached the Supreme Lord for fulfilling material desires. He wanted a kingdom greater than his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, like that. So the Supreme Lord was very pleased with his determination and he came and touched Dhruva Maharaj on his forehead with his conch shell. Brahma Mayena Kambuna Pasparsha Balam Kripaya Kapole. So when he touched the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj with that conch shell, he became completely purified. And then even though the Supreme Lord offered him all those great benedictions of being the ruler of Dhruva planet and all such, that Dhruva Maharaj said, Kacham vichinman apidivya ratnam swamin kritartosmi varam nayache. He mentioned that, oh my dear Lord, I desired broken pieces of glasses when you are willing to give me diamonds and other such valuable jewels. I am really sorry, but I don't want any of these. So he could reject it when he received the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Hari or Lord Prishnigarbha, who came. And then the fourth example that is given is Chatushranas, the four Kumaras. So the four Kumaras are considered to be Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. Their practice has a small tinge of Jnana in it. When they came in touch with the Supreme Lord in Vaikunta, when they were having an argument with Jaya and Vijaya, suddenly the fragrance emanating from the lotus feet of Supreme Lord Narayan mixed with the tulsi leaves, that fragrance entered into their nostrils. And then it is mentioned, Tasyaravinda Nayanasya Padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata swavivarena chakara tesham sankshobam aksharajusham api chittatanvo. So aksharajusham api, they were completely absorbed in the Brahman realization, but still chittatanvoho sankshobam chakara. Their body and mind became completely agitated by that fragrance which entered into their nostrils. And they completely gave up that Brahman realization and became completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, this verse says that these four kinds of mixed devotees can become pure devotees only if they have the association directly of the Supreme Lord, which is extremely rare, or at least of pure devotees, which is possible. So in such cases, they will give up their secondary desires and take up to primarily worshipping Krishna. So this is the next theme that is discussed here by Srila Rupa Goswami. Then the next theme, the seventh theme in this second wave of eastern section of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is how desires for bhukti and mukti obstruct bhakti. So a sadhaka has to give up these desires for bhukti and mukti. Otherwise it becomes a serious obstacle in his aspiring for prema. Srila Rupa Goswami mentions this very famous verse. This is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Bhukti mukti sprhayavat pishachi hridi vartate tavat bhakti sukasyatra katam abhyudayo bhavet. So he says, katam tavat bhakti sukasya, how can the happiness of bhakti manifest in the heart of that person whose heart is haunted by bhukti mukti sprha pishachi, by the demoness or by the witch of desire for liberation and material enjoyment. Bhukti sprha and mukti sprha. So it is not possible. This is a famous verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. When Srila Rupa Goswami compiled this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it was a humongous combined effort by Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami. It took them almost 17 years to compile this book. And after compilation, one day Srila Vallabhacharya visited the Bhajan Kutir of Srila Rupa Goswami just to see them, meet them and spend time with them. And at that time, Srila Rupa Goswami presented the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to Vallabhacharya and requested him to edit that book. Vallabhacharya gladly accepted and immediately started reading that book. And he immediately chanced upon this verse, Bhukti mukti sprha yavat pishachi hridi vartate tavat bhakti sukasyatra katam abhyudayo bhavet. And he got shocked. He said, my dear Rupa Goswami, what is this? You have called mukti as a witch. This is offensive. Mukti is the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can you call it a witch? So, can I edit this? Rupa Goswami says, yes, please. That's why I have given you this book. Please edit. And then he walks to Yamuna to take bath. And Jiva Goswami was observing this whole thing. And once he ensured that Srila Rupa Goswami was gone, he approached Srila Vallabhacharya and said, my dear sir, I have a small clarification I would like to give you. If you read carefully, Srila Rupa Goswami has not called mukti as witch. He has indicated mukti sprha, the desire for mukti, he has addressed that as witch. Because when the heart is completely consumed by the desire for liberation, that desire is so strong that one cannot, and it is such a strong selfish desire. Mukti is spiritual, but the desire for mukti is all said and done selfish only. Desire for mukti means I don't want any suffering of this material world. So for that one may be willing to worship Krishna, that is another thing. But the goal is not to establish a relationship with Krishna. The goal is not to establish a loving relationship with Krishna, but it is, I don't want to suffer. So therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami explains to Srila Vallabhacharya that he has not criticized mukti, but he has criticized mukti spruha. Mukti is automatically achieved by a devotee. Krishna will, even though a devotee does not aspire for mukti, Krishna will not deprive his devotee of liberation. He will, whatever facilities and comforts of liberation, a devotee will not be deprived of. But the point is that a devotee is not consumed by the desire for mukti, whereas he is consumed by the desire to please Krishna. That is why he has called mukti spruha, the desire for mukti as a wish and not mukti itself. This was a big revelation for Vallabhacharya. So Vallabhacharya was astounded at the depth of understanding of both Jiva Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami. So he waited for Srila Rupa Goswami to come back and he thanked him and he said, look, you have written such a profound literature. Your disciple has opened my eyes. I don't think I can edit this book. So he gave it back to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami was furious. He immediately told Jiva Goswami to leave Vrindavan. He said, there is no place for a proud person in Vrindavan. So please leave. So even though Jiva Goswami had no personal interest in it, he just wanted to explain to Srila Vallabhacharya the profound understanding of Srila Rupa Goswami. He just wanted to glorify and clarify what exactly Srila Rupa Goswami had written. But Srila Rupa Goswami had another purpose in his mind. He wanted to establish what should be the mood of a person who wishes to stay in Vrindavan. So through Jiva Goswami, he showed to the whole world, or at least aspiring Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the mood of a practicing Gaudiya Vaishnava. Jiva Goswami gladly agreed and he went. So in this way, this is a very famous verse, historically famous. So therefore, bhukti or material sense gratification is a demoness because it covers the desires of bhakti with other desires. And mukti is a demoness because its reference point is oneself. It makes one completely absorbed in selfishness. I don't want to suffer. That's all. I don't want anything else like that. So therefore, as we saw, even though Krishna does not deprive a devotee of the facilities of liberation, but a devotee is not aspiring for that. So therefore, but of the two, desire for bhukti and mukti, the acharyas say desire for mukti is more dangerous. Why? The desire for mukti, which is aspired for by the Jnana Yogis, is a much more absorbing desire, because the Jnana Yogis are convinced that there is nothing worth aspiring for in this material world. So therefore they have one pointed absorption in aspiring for mukti, and they do intense sacrifice to achieve it. But for a bhukti kami, a karmi, he knows if not this, something else, if not this, something else. So he does not have a very deep-rooted attachment to one particular enjoyment. So therefore, it is extremely difficult for mukti kamis to accept the path of bhakti than sense gratifiers. That is why throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, wherever the glory of bhakti or the glory of Krishna Katha or the glory of the qualities of the Supreme Lord has to be established, it is mentioned that, oh, even the Jnanis accept the path, even the Jnanis accept the path, even the Muktikamis accept the path. So this indicates that, oh, then they are the most tough nuts to crack and accept bhakti. Therefore, Muktikam is considered to be extremely difficult. Like I'll give some examples from Srimad Bhagavatam. In the first canto it is mentioned, आत्मारामश्च मुनयो निर्ग्रन्था अपि उरुक्रमे कुर्वन्ति अहैतुकीं भक्तिम इत्थं भूत गुणो हरि. Sri Suta Goswami says that the qualities of the Supreme Lord are so glorious. How glorious? He says, Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgranta Api. Even though these Atma Ramas, these Jnana Yogis, who are completely devoid of material desires, who are completely absorbed in Brahman, even they accept the path of bhakti. Kurvanti ahaitukim bhaktim. Why? Ittam bhuta guna hari. Such are the wonderful glories of the qualities of the Supreme Lord. Like that. So if you have to establish that the glories of the Supreme Lord are topmost, then all you need to do is to show that even the Jnanis accept it. Which means for Jnanis to accept the path of bhakti is most difficult. Another example, Srila Shukadeva Goswami shares his own example in the second canto. Parinishtito api nairgunya uttama shloka leelaya grihita cheta rajarshe akyanam yadaditavan. Second canto, Srila Shukadeva Goswami's own admission. He says, Parinishtito api nairgunya. Nairgunya parinishtito api. Even though I was perfectly fixed in my Brahman realization, the word api comes. Nirgranta api, parinishtito api, and then we will see few more verses where the same indication comes. He says, Parinishtito api nairgunya uttama shloka leelaya grihita cheta. Even though I was completely fixed in Brahman, but the pastimes of the Supreme Lord completely attracted my heart. Akyanam yad aditavan. Therefore, I sincerely studied this literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, like that he shares. And one more verse we already saw. Tasyara vinda nayanasya padara vinda kinjal kamishra tulasi makarandavayu antargatasva vivarena chakara tesham sankshobam aksharajusham api chittatanvo. Aksharajusham api means even though they were completely self-realized or Brahman realized sages, they accepted bhakti. They became completely overwhelmed by bhakti. So in order to establish the greatness of bhakti, Bhagavatam is time and again utilizing the examples of Jnanis because they are the most hard nuts to crack. Therefore, even though Srila Rupa Goswami is presenting here categorically that both bhukti spruha and mukti spruha are detrimental for progress in bhakti, he gives one or two verses to establish how desire for bhukti is bad. But he gives about 30-35 examples to constantly indicate that desire for mukti is bad, desire for bhukti is bad, desire for mukti is bad. Great devotees reject the desire for mukti, like that. But we are not going to see all the examples. We will see 2 or 3 examples just to establish this point. This is a verse from the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Uddhava shares about his heart. He says, Konvishate pada saroja bhajam sudurlaborteshu chaturshvapiha tatapi naham pravrinomi bhuman bhavat padamboja nishevanotsukaha. He says, Kahano arteshu chaturshvapiha. What amongst the 4 purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama and moksha, sudurlabha, is difficult to attain. Te pada saroja bhajam, for one who worships your lotus feet. Oh my dear Lord, for one who worships your lotus feet, what amongst dharma, artha, kama and moksha is difficult to attain? Very easy. Tatapi, but still, na aham pravrinomi, I will never desire dharma, artha, kama and moksha, including moksha. Why? Bhavat padamboja nishevana utsukaha, because I am enthusiastically engaged in serving your lotus feet and I am experiencing great bliss by worshipping your lotus feet. I don't think it is worth aspiring for liberation. Or the other 3 purusharthas. Another verse from the 3rd canto, 29th chapter, Kapila Dev's instructions to Mother Devahuti. Salokya sarshti samipya sarupye katvam apyuta Diyamanam na grinanti vinamat sevanam jana. Kapila says, Salokya, Sarshti, Samipya, Sarupya, Sayujya, these 5 kinds of mukti, Diyamanam na grinanti. Even if you offer it to them, they do not accept. Vinamat sevanam. If that is offered without seva, then it is not at all appreciated by devotees and they do not accept it. So there is no mukti spriha in devotees. Another verse from the prayers of Prithu Maharaj from the 4th canto. He says, Na kamayena tatadapyaham kvachin na yatra yushmacharanambujasava mahattamantar hridayan mukachyuto vidatsvakarnayutamesha varah. He says, Na kamaye nata tadapi aham kvachit. My dear Lord, I do not desire that Brahman liberation. He does not even call Brahman, he says tad, that. Why? Nayatra yushma charanambuja asavaha. Because in that Brahman, there is no opportunity to relish the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. Then where is it available? Mahattamantar hridaye. It is available within the heart of the great devotees. So if it is there within the heart of the great devotees, how will you attain it? Mukachyuto. It will flow out through their mouth. Okay, so what do you want? If you don't want liberation, what do you want? Vidatsva karna ayutam. Give me millions of years. What will you do with millions of years? He says, wherever Krishna Katha is happening, I will go and hear. That's what I want. So therefore, for a person who is experiencing the bliss of Krishna consciousness through the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, etc., such a person is never attracted to liberation. So the mukti spriha is not there. Another verse from the 6th canto. Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bibhyati swarga apavarga narakeshu api tulyartha darshinaha. Mother Parvati has just cursed Chitraketu Maharaj. Chitraketu Maharaj with gratitude accepts that curse and willingly becomes Vritrasur. He is completely, Mother Parvati is shocked. But Lord Shiva is not shocked. He tells Parvati, now I will tell you what is the nature of a Narayana Parayana, a person who is surrendered unto Lord Narayan. Na kutaschana bibhyati. He is not afraid of anything in this material world. Swarga, apavarga, narakeshu, api tulyartha darshinaha. He sees swarga, liberation, and naraka in the same way. How? Because he is considered only about the opportunity to serve Krishna. Wherever the opportunity to serve Krishna is there, he is willing to go there. So in this way, in this theme very beautifully, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that how desire for bhukti and desire for mukti are very detrimental for practice of bhakti. The next theme that Srila Rupa Goswami explains is that there are gradations in mukti spriha. Even amongst those desiring mukti, there are gradations. He says, Atra tyajatayai vokta mukti panchavidha pichet salokyadis tatapyatra bhaktya na ati virudyate. He says, even though the 5 types of mukti, salokya, sarshti, sarupya, samipya and sayujya. So salokya means to say in the same planet of the Supreme Lord. Sarshti means to have the same powers of the Supreme Lord. Sarupya means to have the same form as the Supreme Lord. Samipya means to have the personal association of the Supreme Lord. And Sayujya is to merge in the impersonal Brahmajyoti. He says, even though these 5 types of mukti have been mentioned to be worthy of rejection, bhukti, mukti, spriha, yavat, there it was mentioned. Still, these 4 kinds of personal liberation, salokya, sarshti, samipya, sarupya, bhaktya na ati virudyate. They are not so contradictory to bhakti, which means there is some level of contradiction. Because because ultimately the person is desiring for liberation and not for just service. That's why there is the contradiction. So, he says there are three types of people who attain Vaikunta. सुखैश्वर्योत्तरासेयं प्रेमसेवोत्तरेत्यपि सालोक्यादिर्द्विधा तत्र नाद्या सेवाजुषां मता. He says there are three categories of people who go to Vaikunta. The first category of people are Sukha Aishwaryottara. So Sukha Aishwaryottara means those who desire, those who hear about Vaikunta and they are very much attracted, as Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita, in this verse, Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. This is a description of the spiritual world which is not which is self-illuminated. It does not need the illumination of sun, moon, etc. And Prabhupada says, hearing such descriptions of the spiritual world should naturally develop attraction in the hearts of the devotees, and they should want to go there. So if someone hearing such descriptions of the spiritual world becomes primarily becomes little more attracted to enjoying those facilities, but at the same time he worships the Supreme Lord also, so he achieves a lower level of mukti which is called as Sukha Aishwarya Uttara Mukti. Uttara means predominant. The predominant desire is Sukha and Aishwarya of Vaikunta, which is not a material desire, but it's slightly, but it's not completely selfless desire also. Then still higher are those who predominantly want to worship the Supreme Lord lovingly, but they have small tinges of experiencing that Sukha and Aishwarya of Vaikunta also. They are called as Prema Seva Uttara. The predominant desire is Prema Seva, but there is tinge of desire for Sukha and Aishwarya also. And the third category, the highest category, are Harau Ekantinaha. Harau Ekantinaha means those who have unflinching desire only to serve Krishna. That is, for serving Krishna, if they have to come to the material world, they don't mind. They are not specifically attracted to Vaikunta. So in this way, three stages of this gradations of those who go to Vaikunta is indicated. So generally, elsewhere in his purports in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has mentioned that this Sukhaishwaryottara Mukti is attained by the Karma Mishra Bhaktas, and the Prema Sevottara Mukti is also called as Shantarati. This is attained by the Jnana Mishra and the Yoga Mishra Bhaktas, and pure Prema in one of the five rasas is attained by practitioners of pure devotional service. So, किंतु प्रेमैक माधुर्य जुष एकांतिनो हरौ नैवांगी कुर्वते जातो मुक्तिम पंचविधापि चेत. But the devotees who are solely attached to the lotus feet of the Lord and who relish only the sweetness of prema, they never ever accept the five types of liberation if it is without service. Okay. So in this way, three types of liberation are mentioned. Then the next theme that Srila Rupa Goswami discusses is of the Prema Bhaktas, worshippers of Govinda are the best. Because you could have a Prema Bhakta like Prahlad Maharaj, who is a worshipper of Narsingadev. You could have a Prema Bhakta like Hanumanji, who is a worshipper of Lord Ram. And you may also have a Prema Bhakta who are worshippers of Lord Govinda. So he says, even though there is no difference, but still there is difference. Worshippers of Govinda are considered to be the best. So here it is mentioned, Tatrapi ekantinam shreshta Govinda hritamanasa yesham shrisha prasadaupi mano hartum na shaknuyat. He says that Tatrapi ekantinam, amongst those who are completely dedicated only to Krishna Prem, not to Salokya, Sarshti, Sarupya, Samipya, but who are completely dedicated only to serve Krishna, Sreshta, amongst them the most topmost is Govinda Hritamanasa, one whose heart has been completely stolen by Govinda. Yesham Shrisha Prasadopi, such a person, even though if he may come in touch with the kindness of Shrisha, Lord Narayan in Vaikunta, Mano Hartum na Shaknuyad, it cannot steal their hearts because they are completely captivated by the sweetness of Krishna. Here the special word Govinda is used for two reasons. One is Govinda is the special worshipable deity of Srila Rupa Goswami. That is the internal meaning which is leaked out by Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary. He says he is unable to not write about Govinda. He could have told Krishna, but he uses the word Govinda because Radha Govinda is the worshipable deity of, was the worshipable deity of Srila Rupa Goswami. Another meaning of the word Govinda indicates the Lord of the Gopis. How? Mother Kunti in her prayer she says, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So Mother Kunti is meditating on the various devotees who were very fortunate, who became very fortunate by appearance of Krishna. She thinks, Krishnaya Vasudevaya. Oh, Vasudeva is very fortunate. There are many devotees who have Vatsalya Bhav towards Krishna. I am one amongst them. Kunti has Vatsalya Bhav. But only Vasudeva could become the father. He is very glorious, very fortunate. Devaki Nandanaya cha. But Devaki is still more fortunate than Vasudeva. Why? Because she could hold Krishna within her womb. So she is very fortunate, more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Gopa Kumaraya. But Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda are still more fortunate because Vasudeva and Devaki were the parents of Krishna, but it was Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda who got to experience all the childhood pastimes of Krishna. But is there anyone more fortunate? Govindaya Namo Namaha. She does not explicitly say because the most secret things cannot be explicitly said. So Govindaya Namo Namaha she says. What is the meaning of Govindaya Namo Namaha? The Acharyas explain. Krishna in the Bhauma Leela, he receives the name Govinda after he completes the Govardhan Leela. So after Govardhan Leela, Surabhi and Indra they come and Indra begs forgiveness and Surabhi recommends Indra and then she performs Abhishek to Krishna and then finally she gives him the name Govinda, one who gives great pleasure to cows and the senses. And that was exactly the time when Krishna completed his Pauganda Leela and he entered into his Kaishor Leela. So Kaishor Leela means who are the devotees who will get the association of Krishna in his Kishore Avastha? The gopis. So by indicating Govindaya Namo Namaha, she was indirectly glorifying the gopis for being the most fortunate of all the devotees. So therefore, Yesham Shrisha Prasadopi Manohartum na Shaknuyat. So even though for those whose hearts have been stolen by Govinda, the gopis, for them even the kindness of Lord Narayan cannot steal their hearts. In the middle of the Rasa Leela, Krishna suddenly disappears. And all the gopis are searching for Krishna. So Krishna disguises himself as Lord Narayan and he is standing there with 4 hands. And the gopis come running and they see Narayan standing there. And then they say, Om Namo Narayanaya. All glories to Lord Narayan. He says, where is Krishna? So they have nothing else to ask Lord Narayan. You are omniscient. Can you please tell me where is Krishna? Lord Narayan says, please go this way. Then the next set of gopis, Om Namo Narayanaya. Where is Krishna? They have nothing else to ask. He shows them. Then finally Radharani comes. Om Namo Narayanaya. Where is Krishna? And Krishna, after seeing Radharani, naturally his two arms melt and he starts holding a flute. He manifests his form. So in this way, Yesham Shrisha Prasadopi Manohartam na Shakniyat. It's not that the gopis did not know that Lord Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They knew. That is why they asked Lord Narayan, where is Krishna? Otherwise, why would they ask Lord Narayan? They knew that here is the omniscient Supreme Personality of Godhead standing. But still, all that they cared for was the association of Krishna. Yesham Shrisha Prasadopi Manohartum na Shaknuyat. Even the kindness of the Lord of Vaikunta cannot steal their hearts. And this includes Krishna in Mathura and Krishna in Dwaraka also. Then Srila Rupa Goswami says, Siddhantastu abhedepi Shrisha Krishna Swarupayoho Rasena Utkrishyate Krishna Rupam Esha Rasastitihi. Siddhantastu abhedepi. If according to Siddhanta, actually there is no difference. Shrisha Krishna Swarupayoho. Between the Swarupa of Krishna and Lord Narayan. Rasena Utkrishyate Krishna Rupam. But if you consider rasa, Krishna's form is far superior. Because in Vaikuntha Leela, you can at the most experience Madhurya Rasa in Swakiya Bhav, and that too only experienced by Mother Lakshmi, no one else. And Vatsalya Rasa is not experienced in places like Ayodhya, and some kind of mixed Sakya Ras like Guha and Sugriva had, but that also cannot be, it's completely filled with Aishwarya. It is almost indistinguishable from Dasya Ras. So it's heavy Dasya with little bit of Sakya. But in Goloka Vrindavan, everything is bereft of that Aishwarya Bhav. So therefore, Rasena Utkrishyate Krishna Rupam. If you consider rasa, Krishna's form is far superior. And this he explains by quoting the sentiments of the queens of Dwaraka. This comes in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. They are telling, O saintly woman, we do not desire dominion over the earth. We do not desire sovereignty of the King of heaven. We do not desire unlimited enjoyment, mystic power, position of Lord Brahma, or even attaining the kingdom of God. What do you desire then? They say, we simply desire to carry on our heads the glorious dust of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, which is enriched by the kumkum from the bosom of their consorts, from their consort's bosom. We just desire to experience the same contact with the Supreme Lord's feet that the young Pulinda woman of Vrindavan and the gopis of Vrindavan experience. So basically, even they appreciate, even the queens of Vrindavan appreciate the love of the gopis towards Krishna. And they desire that. And here they again give the example of the statement of the Nagapatnis. Rupa Goswami gives the example. He says that even Mother Lakshmi hankered for that association, but she could not get. And Uddhava aspired. He quotes from the 10th canto. So Uddhava also aspired for that association. So we have to understand that what is it that they aspire. Is it that the queens of Vrindavan wanted to become gopis? Is it that Uddhava wanted to become a gopi? Is it that the Nagapatnis or is it that Mother Lakshmi wanted to become a gopi? It's not that. Actually, what they desire is the intensity of love that the gopis have for Krishna. Everyone appreciated. That's exactly the reason why Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan. Just to show, can you even imagine this intensity of love that the Vrajavasis and especially the gopis have for me? You consider yourself the best amongst all the devotees, O Uddhava. I want you to go and see them. Can you even imagine that intensity of love? And Uddhava for the first time understood why Krishna had sent him there. Krishna said, yes. Uddhava says, yes. Actually, I hanker for this intensity of love. So when they say I hanker that, they don't hanker for that form of love. So Uddhava is hankering for that intensity of love that the gopis have for Vraja Krishna. He wants to have that same intensity of love towards Krishna in Dwarka. And the same way, the queens of Vrindavan hanker for that intensity of love towards their Lord in Dwaraka. So therefore, it is not that suddenly Uddhava wants Madhurya Ras. Uddhava has a mixture of Sakya and Dasya Ras, but he wants to have that rasa only. He does not want to give up that rasa, but he wants that intensity of love that the gopis have for Krishna. So in this way, actually if you see, people, all these great devotees, they don't want to give up the form of love that they have for Krishna. Even though everyone appreciates gopis and their love for Krishna, they hanker for that intensity of love but not the form of love. I will give a small example. Mother Yashoda is very much concerned that Krishna is going to graze with the calves barefoot. So she thinks, okay, I have to do something. So she makes some slippers for Krishna so that he can wear it while going for grazing. But Krishna says, oh, that's a very good thought that you had, mother. What about the cows and the calves? They should also have slippers. So can you make slippers for all of them? So which means 4 slippers per animal. And he had lakhs and lakhs of them. So she said, but the point was, she was concerned that Krishna was walking barefoot in the forests of Vrindavan. But she expressed that concern by making slippers, which is very appropriate for that Vatsalya Bhav that she had. And Krishna's friends were also sometimes concerned that Krishna is walking barefoot in Vrindavan. So what would the friends do? The friends would sometimes carry Krishna on their shoulders. Sometimes they would massage Krishna's feet. In this way they will show their concern to Krishna, which is in line with the Sakya Bhav that they share with Krishna. The gopis, they also become very much concerned that Krishna is walking barefoot in the forests of Vrindavan. So how do they express that concern? They embrace that lotus feet within their chest. That's how they express their concern, which is in line with the particular Madhurya Bhav that they share with Krishna. What to speak of humans? Even the cows of Vrindavan are concerned that Krishna is going to walk barefoot in the forests of Vrindavan. So how do they respond? They immediately use their 4 hooves to completely pulverize the earth of Vrindavan and make it into soft powder, so that Krishna feels very pleasant. What to speak of that even the dust of Vrindavan, the earth of Vrindavan is concerned that Krishna is walking barefoot on the forest of Vrindavan. How does the earth show its concern? By becoming very warm during the cold winters and becoming very cool during these harsh summers, so that Krishna can have the perfect experience walking on the earth. So in this way, if you see, every person in Vrindavan shares the common concern. Krishna Saukyartam eva kevalam udyama. Every endeavor of every resident of Vrindavan is purely for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna Saukyartam eva kevalam udyama. But each one, even though they have that concern, they express that concern in such a way that their rasa is not compromised. So the gopis embrace the feet of Krishna. Mother Yashoda makes slippers for Krishna. The gopas, they carry Krishna, massage his feet. And the cows, they pulverize the earth. And the earth becomes warm during winters and cool during summers to give the perfect experience for Krishna. So in this way, everyone shows their concern in such a way that their personal relationship with Krishna is not compromised. So this is the beauty of Vrindavan. So here also, when it is mentioned Govindaya Namo Namaha, the gopis are the topmost. Everyone is appreciating the gopis. Mother Lakshmi is appreciating. The queens of Dwaraka are appreciating. Uddhava is appreciating. Not only appreciating, they are hankering for that intensity of love, but not that form, because they are very happy with the form of love that they have for their own Lord. But they do appreciate the intensity of love, and they feel very, very humbled seeing that intensity of love that the gopis possess towards Krishna. So in this way, Srila Rupa Goswami establishes that there may be different prema bhaktas, worshippers of Narsingadev, Matsyadev, Kurmadev, Varahadev, Lord Ram, or Lord Narayan, and the Lord in Lord Krishna in Dwaraka, Mathura. But of all of them, worshippers of Krishna in Vrindavan are the topmost, and even amongst them, the gopis are the topmost. Govindaya Namo Namaha. And this is concluded, this is the conclusion of Mother Kunti also. This is the conclusion of Uddhava, this is the conclusion of Bhishmadev, this is the conclusion of Mother Lakshmi, this is the conclusion of the Nagapatnis. All of them, their conclusion is very consistent. So therefore, Rupa Goswami is establishing that of all the prema bhaktas, worshippers of Govinda are the topmost. And then the next theme that that Srila Rupa Goswami discusses in this second wave of the eastern section of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is that there is no material disqualification for practice of bhakti. Anyone is qualified. So he quotes this verse, Shashratah shruyate bhaktau nrimatrasya adhikarita sarva adhikaritam magasnanasya bruvata drishtantita vashishtena hari bhaktir nripam prati, he says. That Shastratah shruyate, the scriptures say nrimatrasya bhaktau adhikarita. What is the qualification for practicing bhakti? He has to be a human being, that's all. There is no other qualification to practice bhakti. Sarva adhikaritam, just as everyone is qualified to take bath in the frigid waters of Ganga during the month of Magh. The month of Magh is considered to be the most coldest month, and in that everyone is qualified to take an early morning bath, but not everyone takes. Similarly, even though here Srila Rupa Goswami says that everyone is qualified to practice bhakti. Any human being is qualified, but only a Shraddhavan, one who has received that Shraddha through the Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, one who has received that seed of devotion, that faith in pure devotional service by the association of Guru and Krishna, only he can actually practice. But still, from a material point of view, there is no disqualification. Is a Shudra disqualified from practicing bhakti? Absolutely not. Is a Chandala disqualified from practicing bhakti? Absolutely not. Can only citizens of Bharat Varsha, can they practice bhakti? Absolutely not. Can Americans also practice bhakti? Why not? So any human being can practice and anyone can accumulate that Shraddha. Only if he comes in touch with a pure devotee, he can accumulate that Shraddha. So therefore, it says, so one should not say that, yes, it is true that you have mentioned that Jata Shraddho Matkatasu or Yadrichaya Matkatadau Jata Shraddhostu Yafpuman. So you have mentioned that faith in the process of bhakti is the prerequisite to start bhakti. So one may say, oh, this is probably applicable to the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, maybe some Vaishyas. But the lower caste, how can they accept that bhakti? How can they get that Shraddha? Bhakti Shastro mein, how can they develop faith in the Bhakti Shastras? You must be mostly talking about Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, right? At the most, maybe some Vaishyas. Is it like that? So he says, no, any human being is eligible. Any human being is eligible. But you may say, oh, but the Bhakti Shastras are in Sanskrit. They can't read Sanskrit. What is the problem? Srila Prabhupada's books, he has translated in English and his books have been translated in hundreds of languages. Now literally a Russian can read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, all these books in Russian language. And Chinese can read it in Chinese language. Even in Urdu someone can read. So one cannot say that only the people, because these literatures have been written in Sanskrit, only one who knows Sanskrit can read, understand and follow this. That is not true. So therefore any human being, that is why it is mentioned, any human being can practice. So therefore he quotes a verse from the Padma Puran. Antyaja api tadrashtre Shanka Chakra Ankadarinah Samprapya Vaishnavim Diksham Dikshita Iva Sambabuhu. It is mentioned that Tadrashtre. Tadrashtre means in the country of the king Malayadvaja, Antyaja api, even the outcasts, even the Chandalas, Kirata, Hunandra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abira, Shumba, Yavanaha, Kasadaya, all these various kinds of outcasts, Samprapya Vaishnavim Diksham, they received Vaishnav Diksha. And what is the proof? Shanka Chakra Ankadarinah. They wear the Shanka and Chakra. Actually it is mentioned that there are 5 samskaras during initiation. Pancha samskara, they say. Anyone who receives initiation, Vaishnava initiation, in any of the bona fide sampradaya, they accept what is called as Pancha samskara. Tapa Pundrat Tatanama Yago Mantrascha Panchama. 5 things. So, what is this Tapa? Tapa means it has all these 5 have an external manifestation and they have a very deep rooted internal meaning. Tapa means in other Vaishnava Sampradayas, especially Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, if you see, they have the symbols of Shanka and Chakra, which are considered to be Lord Vishnu's symbols, made of iron or silver, and they put it in fire and they heat it nicely and and they put those symbols on the person's shoulder who is receiving initiation, indicating that the Vishnu's marks are there in his body, means his body now belongs to Lord Vishnu, indicating that I am surrendered to Lord Vishnu. So that surrender is indicated by tapa. That is one thing. And also tapa means austerity. Even though in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we may not accept that kind of we don't have that samskara externally, but Bhogadityaga Krishnasya Hetave. Of the 64 limbs, one of the most prominent limb is that the Vaishnava is expected to voluntarily give up sense gratification so that he gets maximum time for pleasing Krishna. That is tapa, because to give up sense gratification is not easy. So otherwise, if one just experiences the momentary pain of taking the Shankha and Chakra, but rest of the life if he engages only in sense gratification, that tapa is a name only. It is just momentary. But that tapa is said to be lifelong. Bhogadityaga Krishnasya Hetave. Voluntarily surrendering one's sense gratification for actually pleasing Krishna. So this is Bhogadityaga Krishna. This is tapa. And the second is Pundra, means Urdhva Pundra. So all the Vaishnava Sampradayas, if you see, they have different types of tilak marks, but all the tilak marks would be vertical tilak marks. So Urdhva Pundra it is called, and it is applied in 12 places. So the 12 tilak marks to indicate that the body of the Lord, this body is actually temple of the Lord, to indicate that. Tapa Pundra, Tata Nama. Nama means the person receives a Dasya Nam. Like in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, they may receive names like Ramanuja Das or Narayan Das, like that. And in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we receive names like Krishna Das, Balram Shakti Das, and so many such names which may remind one of his dasya to the object of his worship, or Vaishnava Das, like that, or Vaishnava Seva Das. So that which reminds him of his constitutional position, that which should not remind him of his body and bodily relationships, but it should remind him of his relationship with Krishna, his constitutional position. So this is the third aspect of Panchasamskar. Tapa, Pundra, Tatanama. Yago means some kind of deity worship and other such duties are given. So that those duties we will see little bit later, the 64 limbs, what are the duties expected of a qualified practitioner, what is he expected to do, what is he not expected to do. That is a whole different topic which we will be discussing. And mantra. Mantra means it could refer to the holy name, or it could refer to the Gayatri mantra for chanting. So in different sampradayas, different mantras are offered for achieving their goal and their flavor of goal. So similarly, so these 5 aspects are there in every sampradaya's initiation process. It is called as Pancha Samskara. They have a superficial meaning and they have a very deep meaning. So for devotees who would like to go deep, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a very profound essay on this Pancha Samskara, where he elaborates on the deeper import of this Pancha Samskara, which is practiced in all the Vaishnava Sampradayas. So here Srila Rupa Goswami quotes this verse from Padma Purana, where it is mentioned that in the country of this great Vaishnava king Malayadvaja, even the Antyajas, even the outcasts would move around with Shankha and Chakra, symbols of Vaishnava symbols, Dikshita iva Sambabahu, and they would be shining like sacrificial priests You would not be able to differentiate between who is a Brahmana and who is an outcast, a Chandala, because everyone was so effulgent because of their practice of bhakti. So therefore, it is indicated through these verses that how it is not a prerequisite, that no material qualification is a prerequisite for practicing bhakti. One just has to be a human being, that's all. So, and there are so many other verses in Bhagavatam which support this. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abira Sumba Yavanaha Kasadaya Yenye cha papa yadapa shraya shrayaha shuddyanti tasmai prabha vishnave namaha. If one takes shelter of a devotee and practices bhakti, he can. And a similar verse is there in the second canto. Tevai vidanti atitaranti cha deva mayam stri shudra huna shabara apipapa jiva yadi adbhuta krama parayana shila shiksha tiryak janapi kim ushrutadaranaye. So he says, Tevai vidanti atitaranti cha deva mayam. So that person can cross over this ocean of material existence and understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, this must be a very exalted person. Only some brahmanas, sages like that. Whom are you talking about? He says, Stri Shudra Huna Shabara Api Papa Jiva. However fallen that person may be. How is it possible? Only one principle. Yadi Adbhuta Krama Parayana Shila Shiksha. The only thing is he must surrender unto a devotee and must be willing to learn about Vaishnava Sadachar from him. What are the Vaishnava practices? He must be willing to be trained by a Vaishnava. That's all. But someone may say, oh, how can I get trained? I am so fallen that I am beyond training only. No one can train me also. So here Brahmaji says, even a dog can be trained. Tiryak janapi kim u shrutadaranaye. You call a dog, Jimmy, come here, the dog will come. Jimmy, sit, Jimmy will sit. Jimmy, eat, Jimmy will eat. Jimmy, catch, Jimmy will catch. So you can, when you can teach Jimmy so many such Shila Shiksha, what about human beings? Shruta Dharanaye. They can hear, assimilate and try to put it into practice. All human beings have that capacity. So no one should say that I am incapable of even being trained by a Vaishnava. I am so fallen. So therefore, that is not acceptable. Any fallen person can be trained to practice bhakti, and that is exactly what here Rupa Goswami is indicating. Okay, so the next theme that Srila Rupa Goswami discusses is a very important theme and it needs very elaborate discussion. So therefore, I would choose, and we have hardly 5 minutes left for this session to end. So I don't want to, if we start, it would take at least half an hour to complete this session. So that would mean that we would go half an hour over time. So this being the last session, last 4 sessions I extended beyond time. So in this one session at least I will complete before time. And I will, just as a final reminder, I really thank you for hearing this course and attending this course. Hopefully you got significant benefit through the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami. Any lack of clarity is my own fault, and because Rupa Goswami and the subsequent commentators Srila Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti and Srila Prabhupada, they have presented this subject matter with great clarity, and any defect is only my defect of my inability to present them in a very intelligible way. So I beg forgiveness for any lack of clarity, and as I mentioned before, we will take part 2 of this course also we will have in a few days. And those of you who had registered for this course, we will definitely inform you when the second part of this course starts. And in the second part, we will start with this 11th topic in the second wave, duties expected of a qualified practitioner. And then we would complete the rest of the section on Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and we will also see Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, hopefully. So I will discuss with the course coordinators and see if we have to complete till the 19th chapter, which is the Bhakti Shastri portion, then maybe we will have to split it into 2 more parts. So, or the second part will have to be a longer part. So I will just check with the coordinators and you will be informed of the next course. So again, I would like to thank you from the bottom of your heart for hearing for the last 5 days. It was a wonderful experience having your association. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.